Hi there, my name is David Ledgerwood and I am the Business Systems Trainer for NCG. And today I would like to take you through some of the more commonly used apps within the Office 365 suite. Before I start walking you through the apps that are used commonly, I'd like to give you just a very brief introduction to what else you can find on your Office 365 homepage. Just below the apps, you have a recommended dashboard. So these are documents that you have accessed on either a regular basis or you've accessed recently. Okay, so Office 365 is clever enough to know what you've looked at recently or on a more regular basis, so it will actually automatically add those documents to your recommended dashboard. So there is nothing that you would need to do in order to add it to that dashboard. If you just come down below that, you have a column entitled Recent. So this will show documents that you have accessed recently. Okay, as you can see there are Word documents, and there is a Sway document, and there is an Excel document as well that I've accessed recently. Okay, so all that will be there for you. If you want to have quick and easy access to a document that you know that you'll be going back and back to, what you can do alongside the document that you want to have that quick access to, if you click on the little pin icon, and what that will do when you click on pinned is it will add it to your pin board. So you have that easy access to the document that I mentioned. What you also have is a shared with me option. So this will show you all the documents that have been shared with you by a colleague. Okay, so as you can see there, I've had a PowerPoint shared with me by a colleague last night, and on Tuesday I had a few documents shared with me by another colleague. So as you share documents with colleagues, then that will appear in their shared with me section, and vice versa for you. If you come down below that, you have the recent folders that you've accessed within OneDrive, again, which you can have access to from here. And you also have your SharePoint sites as well, either SharePoint sites that you've accessed frequently or SharePoint sites that you're following. Okay, so that's what you're seeing below your apps. So if I just move up to the apps now, and I'll start to talk my way through the bulk of these apps. I want to concentrate on the ones that I feel that you will use most commonly, or the ones that I feel will be of most benefit to you. Okay, so I want to start off with Outlook. So I know for some of you that you're already using Outlook through Office 365, so you will understand how it works. But that's not the case for all of you. So I just want to take a couple of minutes around talking about that. So if I click on Outlook, this will open up your email client for you. So it will look a bit different to the Outlook app that you may be currently using, okay? But the functionality of it is pretty much the same. You have your emails here, so your inbox if you like, and then on the left hand side you have all your different options of sent, deleted, folders, junk, and all you would expect to find within the desktop version of Outlook. Okay, it's not any different, so it works exactly the same way. And what it will also tell you over here is what your calendar is either currently and also upcoming to. So that's a very brief look at Outlook on 365. Again, it is something I would suggest you have a little bit more of an exploration around and a play with if you are going to be using Outlook through 365. Beside that, we have OneDrive. There are separate materials available for OneDrive, so I don't intend to use any amount of time really talking about OneDrive in this presentation. The next three platforms, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, are platforms that are probably most commonly used by yourself and your colleagues on a daily basis. So I don't intend to talk about these at length, but what I would like to do is to just point out a couple of little features on these platforms that are available through 365 that are not necessarily available or not immediately obvious through the desktop version of these platforms. So I'm going to use Word as the example, but what I'm going to talk about is true of Excel and true of PowerPoint also. So if I click on Word, the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the fact that you have templates for Word, okay? You have a number of templates for different things that might allow you to save a little bit of time. So for example, you can see that there is a template for creating a flyer. There is a template for creating a report. There is a template for creating a memo. And there is a template for creating a cover letter. Okay, so these are just a few of the templates that are available on Microsoft Word. If you were to click onto the Explore All Templates button at the bottom, this will give you even more of an option of templates that are available to you through Word. And as you can also see, it will also give you the templates for Excel and PowerPoint, as I shown a couple of moments ago. So that's as much as I wanted to say around about templates. So if I just open up a blank document, you will see that it looks very similar to when you open up a blank document in the desktop version of Word. You have the blank sheet of paper in front of you. You have the options to change the font, change the size of font, to grow the font size, to bolden the text, italicize it, underline it, highlight it, color, change the color of the font, indents, numbering, bullet points, all of the things you would expect to find within the desktop version of Word. You've also got the things you would again expect to find through your insert drop-downs, your layouts, your references and your review, as well as view and help. First thing though, I wanted to draw your attention to in this particular view is the fact that you can rename your document whilst you're actually in it. So if I just name this test document, so that has now been renamed the test document. What you may also have noticed is that as I was renaming that, it was auto-saving the change. And this is a functionality that you have on the 365 version of Word and Excel and PowerPoint, in that it will automatically save your document as you interact with it. Okay, so if I was to say something like today is Friday, and you will notice that it is saving that document for me, and then it has now saved it. So there is no separate save function within Word, Excel, PowerPoint on 365. It will automatically save those documents for you as you interact with them. So I'll just delete that out. And again, you can see it saving. What I'd also like to talk about with regards to Word and Excel and PowerPoint is the fact that you can share your documents from within the document. So instead of sitting down and writing an email and sending an attachment to that email, you are able to share the document whilst inside the document. And it also provides an extra level of security as well, which is something that I'll talk about shortly. So if I click on the share button over here, you have different options on who you would want the link to work for. So if you're to select the top link, the top option, which is anyone with the link, you have the option to allow editing, put an expiry date on the document, set a password on the document, and also block the person or the people receiving the document from being able to download it. The next option down is people in NCG with the link. So for this option, you only have to worry yourself about deciding whether you want those people receiving it to be able to edit the document, or to stop them from downloading it. The third option is people with existing access. So this would be maybe people that you've been working on previously on a document. So you've already determined the permissions for those people. And this is maybe just another iteration of that particular document. And your last option is specific people. And again, you only have to worry about allowing editing or blocking the download of the document. So once you've made the selection of the link that you want to generate, if you just click on it and then click on apply. So at this point, you will then need to decide who you want to share the link with. So it's just a case of typing in the names of the people you're looking for. And then underneath that, putting in a little message. So think about it as the body of your email that you would be sending. So you could say something along the lines of, please pay particular attention to sections 4, 5, and 6, for example. It's just anything that you want the people you're sending your document to be on the lookout for when they're looking through your document. And once you've done that, if you just click on the send button, that will allow you to share the link to the document with the people that you've selected. I talked a couple of moments ago around about the extra layer of security, and that's where this idea of the link comes in. Because when you share your documents in this manner, you're not actually sharing the physical document itself. You're sharing a link that will take them to the document. So once you've clicked on the send button, that will generate an email to your recipients. That email will contain a link. Clicking on that link will take them to the attachment. So it is not sending the physical document, it is sending a link to the document. So that's just something to be aware of. And that's how you share a document from within the document in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. So, moving on to the next app that I would like to look at and that is the OneNote notebook. So, the OneNote notebook is the Microsoft's version of a digital notebook. It will allow you to divide your notebook into sections and pages, and it also allows for easy navigation and search facilities. It also allows for the revision of notes with type, highlighting, or ink annotations. And it allows you to share or collaborate on the notebook with other colleagues. There is a number of notebooks available within the OneNote brand, if you like. They all look and feel the same. The purposes are different, as you will see when I look at a different variation later on, but they have a similar look and feel. So I just wanted to kind of demonstrate what that looks like in the kind of overarching notebook, so you can get an idea of what that would look like in the other notebooks. So if I click on OneNote, this will take me to, again, recent notebooks that I've accessed or created. I also have pinned notebooks, if I had any pinned notebooks. I have my notebooks, so these are notebooks that I've used previously. I've got shared with me notebooks, so notebooks that have been shared with me. I've got class notebooks, which is something I'll go on and talk about later on. And you've also got a discover option to look out, to be able to check out documents that others are working on. But you will only see documents there that you have access to. So if I wanted to create a new notebook, if I click on new notebook, and I'll call it test notebook. And then click on the create button. And this book looks like. So You can add sections and pages to your notebook as you go. All right, so I'm going to click on this and I'm going to give my section a name of Friday Test. And that now creates a section called Friday Test. So if I now want to give my page a heading, so plans for Friday Test, that is now the name that is now the name of the heading of the page within the section of Friday Test. As I build my notebook, I can add sections down here, and I can also add pages to my section also. Okay. The beauty of having a digital notebook is that you are not restricted in what you can put into it. In a physical notebook, you're either writing text or maybe drawing or creating a table, something like that. With this being a digital notebook, you do not have those restrictions. So by clicking on Insert, you are able to insert a table, insert a file, insert a picture, insert a link, insert audio, insert a symbol, insert math, insert an emoji, insert details of a meeting, insert forms, or insert stickers. You have those options to insert those into your OneNote notebook. You also have the option to do some drawing as well in your notebook, should you so wish. You have a pen, you have a highlighter, you have the popular used colours there, and you also have a wider palette of ink colours to choose from. You also are able to change the thickness of line that you're using for when you're drawing, and you also have the option to insert a math or some math into the notebook. And if you make a mistake, you also have the eraser option also. If you're clicking on View, this will give you an immersive reader option, amongst other things, as well as a page color. So say, for example, you're dealing with somebody who maybe needs to see the page in a different color. You can change the color of the page by clicking on that option. So you have all these things at your disposal when you're creating your notebook. You also have a share button, which is available on the right hand side and works in the same way as the share button on Word that I demonstrated to you previously. So that is your class notebook. That is your OneNote notebook. When we go on and explore the class notebook, you will note that it looks almost identical to the way that this looks. The difference with the class notebook is the structuring around it is a little bit more rigid as opposed to this, which is really up to you because it is your notebook and it's up to you the structures that you put in place for it. But that is something we will explore shortly. I now want to move on to SharePoint. So SharePoint is a document management and collaboration tool. It is an internet used for internal purposes, and it allows the user to store documents in a more regular folder system. So everybody has a SharePoint site within 365. As you will see, you are able to add in news from sites that you follow or visit frequently, and other news suggested by the Microsoft Graph. For example, this has been shared with me on my SharePoint site. So making a difference on 365 and becoming a champion. What you will also see are SharePoint sites down here. Okay, so these are SharePoint sites that relate to teams that I'm a member of in Microsoft Teams or an owner of in Microsoft Teams. So when I am added to a team or when I create a team, this will create a SharePoint site automatically for me. So if I go into this particular SharePoint site, So here, this will show me all the things that are related to this particular SharePoint site, but also to the team for this SharePoint site on Teams. So I've got conversations, I've got documents, I've got notebooks, I've got shared with us, I've got pages, I've got site contents. From the documents, as you can see, I have the option to add new documents, or I can upload to it. So it is very much like OneDrive. So again, it's an example of how Microsoft likes to integrate things. Okay, so this is your OneDrive folder, or this is the relevant documents from your OneDrive folder for this SharePoint site. If I click back on Home to this particular SharePoint site, you can see here all the documents that are relevant to this SharePoint site. It's also the documents that are within the team site as well. So essentially, I don't need to go to the team site to view the documents for this particular team. I can go to the SharePoint site. So that's as much as I really want to say about the SharePoint site. It's something you will be aware of, maybe be aware of, and it is something that you can utilize to your future benefit. Just want to go back. And now I want to move on to, let's go back, to Teams. So there is a separation on Teams. So I don't want to talk too much about that. The separate session will address Teams in a lot more detail. A couple of things I will mention at this point is that clearly you are able to access Teams through 5 as well as through the app. The app and the browser version of Teams works in very much the same way. There's not a lot of difference between the two. There's just a couple of areas where it might be a little bit different, and I'll just briefly talk about those. So, for example, the video feed in the app of Teams at the current time has a maximum of 9 people. So you can have the video feeds of 9 people showing on the app at any one time. On the browser version, you only get the video feed of the person who is speaking. So you only have the video feed of one person at any one time. The other main difference with regards to the browser and the app version of Teams is around sharing your screen. When you share your screen on the app version of Teams, you have an option immediately to share your desktop or to share your window. In the browser version of Teams, those options are combined into a screen share, and then on the next step, after selecting the screen share, on the next step, you then have to decide, do you want to show your desktop, or do you want to share your window? Okay, so that is just something to be aware of as of a distinction between the app version and the browser version of Teams. That's as much as I want to say at this point. And as I said, if you go to the session on Teams, that will provide you with considerably more detail on that particular platform. What I'd now like to move on to is Class Notebook. So you can create your Class Notebook in 2 different ways. You can either create it through here on Office 365, which I will demonstrate shortly, or you can go to Teams and build it through a team. So if I go to a team that has been created as a class, and then if I click on the Class Notebook option, then I will be able to build my Class Notebook from here. Neither way is better, but potentially it might be easier to do it through the Class Notebook on your team, because you will already have all of your team members, and that will go into your Class Notebook. So you don't need to physically add their names in. They're already there within the team. Okay. Whereas in 365, as you will see shortly, you have to physically add in the people that you want to be added to your class notebook. So if I just go back to class notebook on 365, and if I select create a class notebook option, and I will call it test training 2. On next, you will see there is a structure to this notebook. I mentioned this earlier on when we were looking at the OneNote notebook, that there is a structure in the class notebook is a little bit more rigid. So here, you firstly have a collaboration space. So this is where students and learners, students and educators can work together. As the educator, you can edit the content that goes into the collaboration space. As the learner, they can also edit the content that goes in there too. You then have a content library. So here, that allows you as the educator to publish course materials, and it's only you that can edit the content. The learners are only able to view the content in this section. They are not able to edit it. You finally have the student notebook area, which is a private space for each student. Again, as the educator or the teacher, you are able to edit the content. From the student's perspective, they can also edit his or her own content at this point, but they will not be able to view the notebooks of the other students or learners within the class. I click on next. At this point, you have the option to share your notebook with another teacher. So if you are sharing the teaching or sharing the class with another teacher, you can add in the name of that teacher, and they will have the access to the notebook in the same way that you will have as well. Click on next. At this point is when you would add in the names of the students. So this is the point I made about whether to create it here in 365 or to create it in your team. It's very much up to you where you do it, but as I say, there is a little bit more work involved at this point in creating it within 365. So I'm just going to type in a couple of names. And then click on next. So now I need to decide how I want to customize the private area for each learner. Okay, as you can see, there are default sections for the private space area for the learners. Now I'll decide to keep all of these default areas, keep some of them, or keep none of them. I have that option. So let's say, for example, I don't want to use quizzes. So I could just delete that and then add in a section on case studies. So I now, for the students' private area, there are now sections on handouts, class notes, homework, and case studies. I then click on next. And this will give me a little preview on what the class notebook will look like. I have the collaboration space, I have the content library, I have the sections for my two students. So that's what I will see as the teacher. As the student, they will also see a welcome area, collaboration space, and content library, but in this case, only one of the students will see their own sections, the handouts, the class notes, the homeworks, the case studies. As I mentioned, students will not see the areas of other students within the class. So if I was happy with that, I would click on the create option. I don't want to do that right now because then that would generate this notebook for the two students that I picked out, and it's not something I want to do at the current time. But what I will do is I will go back and show you a notebook and what it looks like in reality. So if I just go back. So this takes me back to my OneNote class notebook dashboard. So from here, I'm also able to add or remove students, and I'm also able to add or remove teachers. But at this point, I want to manage notebooks. So I'll select the Geometry 101 notebook. So again, as you can see, I'm able to customize the student sections at this point. I can either add or take away from them. I can also enable a teacher-only section group. I could lock the collaboration space. I could change the permissions on the collaboration space, or I could generate parent and guardian links. So what that means is that if you want to share the notebook with the parents or guardians of your learners, you could generate links that would allow you to do that. Okay, so if I now go up to here and open the notebook, this takes me into the notebook. So as I mentioned earlier when we looked at the OneNote notebook, it has a very similar look and feel to it. It's just the content and the structure that will be different. So again, if I click on collaboration space, it then opens up a little divider. So if I just click on the divider, and there is the first page of my collaboration space. I've got the basics of health and safety. So I maybe want to change that to the foundations of testing. And then I can then add in to that particular page, again, using the options that are available with the insert dropdown and the draw dropdown as well. Like before, I'm able to add sections down here as well as pages. Moving into the content library section of the notebook and clicking on the divider. I have some suggestions here that you can use the content library for, but these are only suggestions from Microsoft. It's really up to you how you use your content library and how you can make it work for you. Okay, so as it says there, it can be a place for materials such as readings or worksheets, and the comparison with a big filing cabinet for your classroom documents is also made. Again, it highlights the point that only you as the educator is able to add in content to the content library. It then goes on and makes some suggestions of what you could use the content library for. So, for example, asking students to copy pre-made pages from sections like handouts or book reports, or posting important information such as syllabi, calendars, permission slips, or class rules. You can see there are other suggestions there, but as I've said, it's entirely up to you how you want to use this content library section. And then if I come into the private space of one of the students, again, it's showing the areas that I've customized for them. So in this case, it's a different notebook to the one that you saw me create a couple of moments ago. So it has a section of handouts, class notes, homework, and quizzes. Okay. And again, up here, you have the share option for your class notebook. So that is how your class notebook works, and that is what it looks like. As with anything, I would advise you to have a play around with this, just to see how it feels, just to see if it's going to work for you, and to think about how you can make it, how you could use it for your classes that will be coming up in the next academic year. So I just want to close that down. Close that as well. That as well. I now want to move on to something called Sway, right? So Sway is where you can create and share interactive reports, personal stories, and presentations. So we have PowerPoint. We've been using PowerPoint for a number of years, and PowerPoint is a fantastic tool. However, there is options available with Sway that allows you to kind of move beyond PowerPoint and able to incorporate different kinds of media and content as well. Initially, again, just like we saw earlier with Word, you have templates for Sway. So you can create a newsletter on Sway, for example. If you're dealing with an art student, they could create their CV on Sway. Or a photography student, they could build up a portfolio on Sway. Moving down, you could also create a standard CV on Sway as well. So those are just some of the portfolios that are available on Sway. Now, I'm not going to build a full Sway, but I just want to show you a couple of things on it. So if I click on a new blank Sway, okay, so when I come on here, it is a canvas, and that's essentially what Sway is. It is giving you an interactive web canvas. You have a storyline section and you have a design section. So in your storyline section is where you build your Sway, and the design section, you can look at what your Sway will look like. All right. So if I then first put in a background for my Sway, so let's look for a sunny background. So let's go with that. And I then click on add. And that will be the kind of background of my Sway. I then want to give my Sway a title. So let's say something like weekend plans. Just cross this out. So that is going to be the look of my Sway. So if I quickly go to design, there's the backdrop for my Sway, and that's what it looks like. And that's the kind of header, if you like. Okay. So I can then at that point start to build by clicking on the insert content button. So I have the option of inserting text into my Sway. So I could put in some headings and then add in some text. I can insert some media. So I can insert an image. I can insert a video. I can insert some audio. I can embed insert an embed card, or I can upload something from my own device. Or I can use grouping within the Sway. So that could be automatic grouping, grid grouping, comparison grouping, stack grouping, or slideshow grouping. So I have a very wide canvas to build my Sway. As I go, I have the option to play it just to see what it's going to look like for my viewers. Okay. And I also have the option to share it as well. Again, there's that share button that we've seen across the other platforms so far, or many of the other platforms so far. And there you can see you can decide who you're going to share your Sway with. Okay. And then you have the settings option on Sway, and that will hold all the Sways that you create. It allows you to create a new Sway or duplicate a Sway or save it as a template amongst other options, as you can see. Okay, so that is how you can start to build your Sway. Okay, I just want to very quickly show an example, if I can, of a Sway that was created previously. So just let me go there and go here. So this is a Sway that was created by Newcastle College for a remote learning showcase. All right. So from here, it was created as a newsletter, as you can see, and it talks about providing links and recordings of the showcase sessions that were taking place from the 4th of May. Okay. So we've got Catherine McCabe doing a presentation on sport and uniform services, and there's the recording for it beside there. Jordan and Haley were going to do something on hair and beauty. Steph Nouch was going to do something, who's from art and design, was doing something on innovative ways to get students to think differently. And so it continues. Okay, so that's what your sway could look like, or an example of what your sway could look like. You come down, it continues on, and then if we come down to the bottom, you've also got additional webinars, external webinars that can be added into your sway. So you have a very broad and wide canvas in using your sway. So if you're thinking about presentations or you're thinking about creating reports, don't just think about Word, don't just think about PowerPoint, think about sway. It will give you different options to create that piece of work. All right, so I want to move on from sway, so I'll just close that down. And I want to talk about, or I now want to move on to forms. Now, as an educator, I think that forms is something that is going to be very useful for you. If you just want to have a quick reaction in a group or in a class, there is an app or a tab called Polly, which you can use both in Office 365 and also within Teams. If, however, you want something that's a little bit more detailed and you want to get some more data behind it, Forms is probably going to be your best bet. So if I click on Forms, and this will open up for me my forms. So here it will show the forms that I've already created, the surveys I've already created. You can see from here that you can create a new form or you can create a new quiz. So I'm going to click on creating a new form. So I can now give my form a name. I call it test evaluation form. I could add in a little icon for it, which would relate to the subject of the form. So as this is about Office 365, let me use that icon. Just give it a moment to upload, and there we go. We now have the Office 365 logo on the evaluation form. I could then put in a little bit of a narrative around the description of the survey. What do I want to say about the purpose of the survey or what the survey is for? I can also add in some themes to my form. So I have the option of going down and maybe selecting that backdrop. And I have that backdrop now to my form. So just click away. So now I can start to build my form. So if I click on Add New, I have different options of types of questions. I could select a choice question, which gives me the traditional multiple choice option. Again, I have the potential to add choices to that, so it just gives me 2 at the moment, but I could add to that, make it 3, 4, or 5, potentially. I can also give the ability for the respondent to provide multiple answers. And I can also ensure that the respondent answers this question. They are not able to progress past it without answering the question. So you can do that in all of your questions if you so wish. If I click on Add New again, I could select a text question. So this is where you would ask a question and the answer is free text. And if you want to give the respondent a little bit more space, you could make it into a long answer. I could click on Add New again, and this time I could go to a rating question. So you could have a star rating symbol, or you could go to a number rating. And again, you could increase the numbers that people are rating on. You could go from 4, or you could go to 10. Again. Click on Add New again. And you could select a question that requires a date as an answer. For example, when did you start your course? I then go to Add New. And behind the downward arrow, there are a couple of other question types hiding. I've either got a ranking question, So that could be something like taking into account the different preferences to learning styles. Please rank these in order of most favourite to least favourite. That's the way you could use a ranking question. And the other option that is hiding behind the downward arrow is the Likert question. Now, this will be familiar to you if you've ever completed an engagement survey for an employer, for example. So you have statements which you can add to, and you have options which you can name. So the common one would be strongly agree, slightly agree, neutral, slightly disagree, strongly disagree, but you can customize that to whichever way you want. So that is the different types of question that you can use on your Microsoft Forms. Okay. What you can also do with your questions is you can make your form into something called a dynamic form. And what I mean by that is that you can build in links to other questions that not necessarily everybody would see. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have a question that demands a yes or a no answer. If your respondent selects no, they progress on to the next visible question. If your respondent answers yes, adding branching or making the form dynamic would allow an extra question to appear to that respondent, and it would allow them to provide further details on their yes answer. That would not be visible to the respondent who answered no. So that's what gives it its dynamism. The way you would do that is by clicking on the three dots here and clicking on the add branching option. So that's something you can do to make your form dynamic. Up here, you are able to view the responses to your survey. So it will tell you how many people have responded. It will tell you the average time it's taken people to complete the survey, and it will also show the status of the survey as well. You also have the option to extract the data from your survey and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then from there it's up to you how you present that data. You have the share button again up here. So again, this is determining who is going to be able to complete this survey. Anyone with the link or only people in your organization. You also have the option to share the template to other people as a duplicate, or share the template in order to collaborate so other people can view and edit the document. And up here in settings, you are able to set a start and end date for the survey. You're able to shuffle the order of questions on the survey, and you're able to customize a thank you message for completing the survey as well. So that is Microsoft Forms. And as I said, I think that is something that will prove very beneficial and very useful to you going forward. The last app that I want to speak about in detail is Microsoft Stream. So Microsoft Stream is Microsoft's version of YouTube. It is a platform for videos. You can share your videos from here. You can view videos here as well. So I just want to talk about firstly about your My Content dropdown. When you record a video on Teams, it will appear in your My Content dropdown. If you've recorded a meeting in Teams, it will drop into the meetings option of the My Content dropdown. If you've recorded a talking head video, for example, it will drop into the videos section of your My Content dropdown. From there, it is then up to you where you put it and how you share it. And that's going to be what I'm going to speak about. As with Teams, there is a hierarchy in Stream. You've got groups and you've got channels. So in Teams, you've got teams and channels. In Stream, you've got groups and channels. Okay, so I just want to talk about groups firstly. So the groups that I have are reflective of the teams that I'm a member of. So again, when a team I'm added to a team, that creates a group on Microsoft Stream, as you can see. Okay. Within that group, I could then add a channel. Okay. So in the same way that I add channels in my team, just to keep things organized, neat and tidy, I could do the same within my group. So if I go to the group for training materials, for example, I could click on create a channel, and that would add, I could name the channel, and that would add the channel to that particular group. Having done that, I could then take my video, I could then drop it either just into the group on its own, or I could drop it into a channel within that group. It's very much up to you how you use the channels part of your groups on Stream. What I'd now like to talk about is with regards to permissions. So, although this is a video sharing platform very much like YouTube and a video viewing platform like YouTube, it is different to YouTube in that there are restrictions on who can see what. So, with any of your videos that you create, not meetings but videos, you have to determine who you want to share this video with, because until you do, it will not go anywhere, right? So this is the My Videos view. So I could add this to a watch list. I could add it to a group or a channel, which I've just talked about. Or here, I could update the video details, and this is where I'm going to look at the permissions for the video. So here, on the left-hand side, under details, I could rename the video, okay? I could put a little description to it, and if it was a language that was supported by closed captioning, I could select a video language for it as well. In the middle is the key part, potentially, because this is where you determine the permissions around who views your video, okay? So if this box is ticked alongside allow everyone in your company to view this video, that means that everybody within NCG Stream would be able to view that video that I was about to share. So you have to be very wary of that box being ticked, because if your video is of a meeting that is of a sensitive nature, then that is probably something that you do not want shared across the organization. If it's something that is open to everybody, then to tick that box will make the video freely available to everybody within the organization. So it's just to make you aware of what that tick box is doing. If you don't want to share it across the company, you want to be a little bit more specific than that, you can either share it with people, with channels, or groups. So if I want to share it with an individual person, so I will share this with Emma. There we go. So once I click on share, this will now share this video with Emma. Okay. I could also make Emma an owner, which would give her the same rights on what she could do with the video as I do as an owner as well. I could also share it into a channel, or drop it into a channel, or drop it into a group. So the people who are a member of those groups, or people who are a member of those channels, once I click on share, will then be able to view that particular video. Okay, so that's how you set up the permissions on Microsoft Stream. You also have options over here to put comments on, to auto-generate a caption file, or upload a subtitle file. Once I'm happy with all that, I would then click on share, and then that would then drop with individual people I picked, or the channels, or the group that I've selected. So that's as much as I want to say about Microsoft Stream. I now want to just close by talking about the All Apps option. Okay, so clicking on All Apps will give you the kind of range of the apps that are available within Office 365. So you've got things like, for example, Planner. So for example, if you're going to be somebody who's going to be creating a plan or organizing assigned tasks and sharing files and getting progress updates on something you're working on, this app might well work for you. It might be an app that is useful for you. You could also use Microsoft Project if you are someone who is developing a project plan, assigning tasks, tracking progress, and managing budgets. You've also got the To-Do app. So if you are a person who likes a to-do list, you could use the To-Do app on 365. And you've also got Yammer, which is like the Facebook version, the Microsoft version of Facebook. And down below here, you've got all apps that are available to you. So there, for example, is the Poly one that I spoke about. That was the polling app that you could use within 365 or also within Teams. So that is the apps that I've wanted to cover, as I feel that they are the ones that you will use most commonly and will be of most benefit to you as well. So I hope this overview of 365 has been useful for you. If you have any questions or anything you want a little bit of clarity on, please do not be afraid to get in touch. Just drop me a chat, send me an email, or just give me a call on Teams, and I will help you as best I can. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope to speak with you all again at some point in the future.